A very warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for those of you who have been tuned in for coming back. And those of you who are joining us, you're most welcome aboard. Today we are talking cars. And if you're a car enthusiast, this is the show today for you. And this is the point, of course, we get to analyze policy, we get to analyze the impact of certain acts, certain rules and regulations on our economy, and get to criticize them positively. Now, today I'm talking to none other than Mr. Ayebare Dennis, Marvin, who is the Publicity Secretary of Association of Motor Dealers in Uganda, and himself is a motor dealer. Now, Mr. Ayebare, there is a new directive. I don't know if it's new or old, but I think it keeps on recurring when it comes to the used cars, which we love mostly in Uganda. I don't know how many new cars are on our roads today, but even when you talk about UBN, you could be driving a 1990, but at UBN currently in Uganda, right? Now, the new laws, or if I could say directives, because they haven't been turned into law yet, saying that we don't need to import cars that are 15 years or more in Uganda. And this is an amendment that comes after the 2018 ban, of course, on cars older than 15 years still. And this was following, of course, enactment of the Traffic and Road Safety Act 2018. And according to Parliament, the Act extended the age of the car exempted from environmental levy to 8 years. And that was from the original 5 years of the environmental levy tax burden. Now shifts to older cars. And the levy is now 50% of the vehicle's value. But before we even talk about the environmental levy, these 15 years, are we going to handle? Like we were sharing in the break. Today it's 2008, right? Tomorrow, next year, it's going to be 2009. And before we know it, we are talking about 2010. Given the size of our economy and the incomes, I saw a report recently that said less than 1% of Ugandans earn $1 million a month. And you expect us to drive 2010 cars. I don't know. What is your opinion on this kind of directive?
There was a very interesting discussion that. I did happen to be on the panel that discussed and agreed on that position. Just to take you back, the government had proposed at that point in time, in 2018, when they were making the amendments to the TRSA, Traffic and Road Safety Act, the proposal, the bill at that point in time was that we should limit motor vehicle importation to 8 years and not even the 15 years that we have today.
Yes.
Technically, 8 years means that if that had passed at that point in time, that would mean that as of today we should be driving 2015 and above vehicles. The argument at that point again was, oh, well, we want to harmonize within the East African community. Kenya does 8 years, why shouldn't we do the same? Yeah. And we had a bit of back and forth, understanding the pros and cons. We had a whole SWOT analysis on the proposal and eventually agreed with government that we limit to 15 years. What does this technically mean? The threshold of 15 years remains constant. That with every new year, all you have to do is just subtract 15 years. Let me break this down a bit. Today we are in 2023. If you're to take 15 years away from that, the oldest car you can import is a 2008. Yeah. Tomorrow when we're in 2024, the oldest car that you will be able to import is a 2009. Well, the other year, when we're in 2025, the oldest car you can import is a 2010. Yeah. So the threshold remains. The 15 years does not change. Yeah. But with every new year, the importation year keeps rising. So that's how it stands. Last year, we also had we had a discussion with URA. Because URA had proposed that for all vehicles 5 years and below, and by now I mean all those vehicles that were in the category of paying environmental levy, which if I'm to look at 2023, which is the year we are in, so that would mean 2013, 2012, 2011, 2010, 2009. URA was proposing that all these vehicles start to pay taxes at the port of entry whether it's in Mombasa or in Dar es Salaam. We did have again a dialogue with them because we realized that it does not fit the billing of the economy. It does not support businesses. It does not support the earnings of the Ugandan. And we had a dialogue with them. And again, allow me to commend URA because their approach recently is very interactive. They engage, they listen. And we eventually agreed that only vehicles of 2 years from 15 years would pay taxes at the port of entry, and port of entry I mean either Dar es Salaam or Mombasa. So let me break that down again. If we are importing 2008 as of this year, as the last year we can import, that means if you were to import a 2008 car or a 2009 car, you would have to pay the taxes in Mombasa. So if you walk into our car bonds, you might not necessarily find a 2008 model or a 2009 model. Or you find them in a different section of the bond with a number plate already put. Because the taxes for these vehicles are being collected at the port of entry. Anything above 2009, 2010 and above, those ones will then be allowed to come into a bond in Uganda where you can keep them, find your tax money paid off, and then take your vehicle.
Is there a difference in the tax ratios when it comes to those two categories?
There is actually no difference whatsoever. The same amount of tax you would pay in Mombasa is the same amount of tax that you will pay in Kampala, in the bond, in Jinja, in Masaka, name it. So there is no difference. It's just that the country with every new year that keeps coming, the country keeps, the limit keeps going higher. And then also there's that small provision of paying taxes in Mombasa.
Yeah, well, interesting. How about the warehousing? There's the fact that the holding time, if I call it the holding time, is 9 months. I don't know if that's true, but the time that a car can stay in a bond without, I think, paying all the taxes, how is that currently?
Well, again, when URA proposed the measures of having cars of 5 years and below pay taxes in Mombasa, when we had that dialogue, they did explain to us the reason why they were proposing those measures. And it was very clear that the economy needs financing, and so they need to collect revenue faster. And so what was agreed in that meeting, which is I think currently at play, is that vehicles are allowed to be warehoused for 6 months in the bonds. So if you bring your car, Anthony, you have free 6 months in the bond.
No taxes.
You can pay your taxes within those 6 months.
Okay.
Thereafter, you would then have to take the car and auction it and whatever it is to try and recover.
So you have 6 months to sell the car?
Yes. Typically as a dealer, that's what we do. I mean, by the time you bring in the car, you have 6 months to have it sold. Yeah. If you haven't sold in 6 months, then your best bet is to actually find money, pay the taxes, and take the car out of the bond and try to sell it when it's out of the bond. Yeah, those are provisions under the East African Customs Management Act that provide for the time of warehousing within a facility in the country.
Well, your opinion still on this 15-year age limit. Yes. According to, you said Kenya, they are doing 8 years.
Kenya is 8 years.
8 years. Yes, don't you think this is going to create a disparity and cause smuggling of cars, especially in neighboring Kenya here? Because we know on the black market, there are cars on the black market in Kenya, because they cannot buy them in Kenya, those cars are much cheaper here in Uganda. They try to smuggle them out of Uganda and then they sell them on the black market in Kenya. Don't you think that is going to be escalated?
Over the last 4 years, from 2018, well, let me just say, I think the 8-year rule in Kenya was introduced in the early 2000s, about 2010, 12, somewhere, I'm not very sure. And it's been their way of life for all these years going. However, the customs regulation, the transit monitoring unit and all that has improved greatly, so much that it's very difficult to smuggle, if at all, a commodity as large as a car. I mean, tell me matchboxes, tell me tobacco, I will totally understand. But moving a whole car and taking it there and trying to use it is extremely difficult. I mean, the borders are not as porous anymore. There are systems now that regulate the transit of cargo, especially like registered cargo like that. So you find that unless somebody is to go through some porous borders somewhere, and I mean, then they'll have to find a way of registering this car in Kenya, which again would become another problem.
Yeah.
So that has not been an issue at all so far, you know, unless someone comes up with some ingenious way. I think URA, KRA on the other side, the Uganda police, those are really on top of the smuggling issue.
And you as the dealers, haven't you felt the pinch on this directive? Because like I said, you know what our bargaining, power is like here in Uganda. Ugandans will come to you and clearly they know this is not the price of the car. And they will bargain to 50% of that car. And then when it comes to newer cars, it's limited. I mean, the pricing is limited. Hasn't this affected your business as dealers, bringing that threshold to 15 years?
In all honesty, it has had an effect because if you walked into the bond right now, your very cheapest car probably costs you about 22 to 25 million. The cheapest car.
And we are talking about a Paso or something.
One of these small, take the kids to school, run around cars, just low fuel economy. I just need something to get from here home to work every day. Those 25, 30 million, cheapest you're gonna find, right? And so that's had a significant impact on our sales numbers. But then again, when you think about it, we don't have a choice. The customer doesn't have a choice. So if you want a car, you're going to have to fork out that kind of money, or you then have to wait. I think what in essence the new directive did also is that it increased demand for already registered cards in the country. Because somebody has his 15 million, before, yes, they would have been able to get a car in the bond. Now they can't, so what do? They go and look for a UBG, a UBD, a UBK, at a slightly cheaper price and drive that until they can eventually afford. But again, remember there's a whole value chain because the person who's probably selling the UBD is probably buying a UBN. So that symbiosis, that value cycle still keeps on going and the business still keeps rotating. But you find one thing I've also understood is that everybody in the economy is catered for. I mean, not everybody has to buy a car from the bond. Even the used car dealers who sell cars with number plates already, they are also now in business. The brokers are all still, whichever way it is. The Toyotas and Nissans of this world are also still in the cloud. So everybody is pretty much catered for in the transactional cycle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, talking about now the affordability of the vehicles, the newer versions, there has also been an environmental impact that government was actually trying to assess. And according to the State of Quality of Air report that was released this year by government, one of the researchers in government, they said the air quality in Uganda, in Kampala specifically, is so bad, starting from Busega and into Kampala, compared to places like Naguru, Kololo, and the like. And why government, the only reason actually I've seen that government is putting in this directive is that there is pollution, and older cars pollute. Do you side with that fact, or there could be other hideous reasons that probably haven't been revealed?
It's interesting. I would like to look at that report. I must say for a fact that yes, cars do contribute to the air pollution. And that's because us as Ugandans have a very poor car maintenance culture. It is a habit. When the car is due for service, you only wait for when you're going for a long journey, service and things like that. And then again, we have some very, very old machines on the road. But I have always personally challenged the assertion that only vehicles, if you look at the industries in this country that are polluting the environment in production on a daily basis, I would like to look at the statistics in that report as to who contributes more. Because if you're telling me that we are importing 2008 cars, which are duly inspected to conformity at the point of origin, how then are you then blaming us or car users, car drivers, for the pollution in the air? Because we are importing newer cars, 2008 and above. These have better combustion, better engines, the VVTIs, etc. And then on top of that, they are pre-inspected before they come in to ensure that they conform to standards of pollution and everything, etc., etc. How is it then you point the fingers back at the car owners or the car dealers? The extent of the problem in this country is industrialization, and that's what needs to be looked into. Why? Because the country does need industrialization, but we need green industrialization. So I would definitely want to look at your report, to look at the statistics, the numbers. I can imagine, for one factory, how many cars does it take to pollute the same as just one factory? Have we looked at those statistics or those numbers? So where is the real problem? Is it the industrialization, or is it the motorists in the country?
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. When you look at even other countries, from where we are importing these actually cars, they're polluting way more, and the levels of pollution are quite high when you compare them to what we have here in Uganda.
China, for example,
yes, absolutely. They even started riding bicycles because
exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Now let's talk about the issue of number plates. The country rather, has been in also a debate of issuing new number plates, and these number plates are going to cost at least 735,000 to the motorists. And the government is saying, wow, this is going to contribute. We have 2.4 million cars in Uganda, and they're saying if we collect taxes, this is about $200. We're going to have 2.8 trillion. Now it brings me back to where you said where government is actually tapping and where it should actually be looking at. Do you think this is a right move? Of course, some of the issues that have been highlighted have been security issues, that the number plates are going to be much more secure, well monitored. They're going to be digital also. And, they hope to fight crime, in a way. But do you think this is substantial enough, or this is actually the time to implement such a directive?
You do raise good points, Anthony. I've always told people that every coin has two sides. You can always look at it, either heads or tails. Anybody would give justification for the digitalized number plates. And if I'm to speak on my own behalf, I do applaud the idea. I think we have to move with the times. I've tried to do research on how many countries have them in the world. There's barely any. But the arguments that have been forwarded are security majorly, right? We all do understand the security concerns in our country. And if we were to look at it from that point of view, I think it's a good initiative. My concern, however, and which has been raised to us on various occasions through our association, is the contentious price tag that's attached to these number plates. Keeping in mind that the requirement is that even if you've had your car UBG, UAY, UAZ, you are going to have UAJ, yesterday I was traveling, I saw 001 UEC, even UEC, you're going to have to get a digitalized number plate. Yeah. Now, who bears this cost and why? If I've already paid for my number plate, why are you again now forcing me to pay for another number plate? I do understand the concerns of security and all, but then maybe that should be a government initiative. Similar to national IDs is the question we've been asked. Why doesn't the government then take it upon themselves? Or simply say that all cars after 1st July are the ones that will be affected, Again, they'll bring an argument of security and all. Then let's find a middle ground. Can we make the number plate affordable to the common wananchi? I already paid my 137,000 for a number plate. And now on top of that, you want me to pay another 735. That will bring my bill to about 836,000 in just a number plate for a vehicle. I don't know the kind of technology that's embedded in there. I don't know how long lasting it is. I don't know what materials are going to be used. But one thing I know for sure is that there's going to be a problem in relation to the cost of purchasing of these number plates.
And I'm thinking about transporters here, like taxis and buses. You know, for them, because it's a business, they can push these costs to the
ultimately,
client.
if that is the end game, what do you expect of them? Definitely, even as the car dealers are going to push this cost to the clients. So invariably, the cost of the car, right? So basically, the value chain is going to be like the car dealer is going to increase the price of the car. So basically, that will go to the consumer. If it's a business motor vehicle, that means the business person who owns this motor vehicle will also have to increase their costs a bit to cater for this. I mean, which will then make goods more expensive. I mean, it's going to have a whole other spiral following it. But I guess I would be very interested in government coming out and trying to provide some more clarity on this pricing issue. I feel it's something that hasn't been properly addressed, and more thought should be given to the $700, $200 price tag.
So the initiative is good, but the fee is exorbitant.
In my opinion, again, I'll speak for myself, and I think it's worthwhile. Good is a relative term. It's worthwhile. It's worth trying. If you went on Google and tried to Google countries in the world that have digitalized number plates, you will get the shock of your life. But well, it's our country, it's our rules.
I saw Kenya also changing number plates. I don't know if they're also coming to these digital ones, but formerly Kenya has had very funny number plates with those big letters, and you know, it's like they paint, they use kids to just paint.
No, not kids. They actually were using prisoners.
Prisoners, wow.
Yeah, so they were in Kenya. The prison system was developing number plates for the country. But now they've decided to go with a more smart,
which is like
computerized, yes.
So they are not coming to actually the digital one.
No, they're not.
They're just coming to where we are.
When you get time, Anthony,
yeah,
look out and try to find out how many countries around the world have digitized number plates.
Yeah.
I think that would better guide our next discussion. In
surely.
Digitized
surely. Mr. Marvin, as we wind up, we want to know the car business, the entrepreneurship around the car business. What are some of the potential opportunities that entrepreneurs can be able to explore in the import and export of cars here in Uganda?
The business of the motor vehicle sector has a lot of symbiosis around this. And as an individual, you can choose to enter through various entry points. Let's say there is a car dealer who sells cars, okay? There is a transporter who will transport these cars from, let's say, Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, to the final destination. There is a clearing agent who will handle the clearing and the logistics to get you your number plates, to get the car cleared from Mombasa, and everything to do with the customs to get you your car. There are car bond owners. You know, you could decide, no, me, I just want to own a car bond and have a car bond. There are, I mean, all these car bonds nowadays have service bays and things like that. You could decide, no, me, I focus on servicing and maintenance. We have a lot of people who do auto parts. That's also part of the industry. In all these bonds or places of, so you'll find food eateries. I mean, the business that evolves around the auto industry is quite vast. It's just you to look at your unique circumstances and decide how best you really want to get into the industry.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the businesses that we look at as lucrative. Looking at you, I think people just out there get inspired to actually get into the business. It looks like the fruits are quite big from the business. Yeah?
We are, well, when people ask me, how are you, Marvin, I say
Yes.
I'm blessed. I have called blessings upon myself.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not a bad business. It's quite capital intensive, however, as one of the challenges. And then the margins are shrinking by the day. I mean, if you put in the tax components and I mean, everybody is trying the business now, so the competition is high.
Yeah.
So you really, my advice to a viewer is that you have to come in with a unique a unique approach that makes you different from everybody else. Yeah.
And finally, Mr. Marvin, the final question would be, someone out there is watching and they want to buy a car. What are some of the tips you can give them in order to buy, first of all, an authentic car from an authentic dealer, but also from your perspective, looking at the nature of our roads and the nature of our, economy? How can someone be able to find a car, a budget car, if I can call it, a car that suits their pockets, that won't burden them, and also a car that will be durable in the long run?
I've always advised my clients that by the time you come in, you must understand what you want. Anthony, what is a budget for you might not be a budget for me. Yeah. Somebody will come in and say, I have 30 million, I need a car. Now, we will go down to, okay, what do you need this car for? Is it for everyday moving in town? Are you a farmer that you're working up country in bad terrain? Do you have a company you work for that gives you a fuel card? So you're looking for a higher performance engine, or are you in the economy class with the rest of us, I mean, there are various aspects that you have to look into when purchasing a car. One thing that at least a lot of our membership, our car dealers, are equipped with is the ability to advise you, to guide you to make an informed decision. But one thing I have particularly noticed is that most customers or clients do actually come with a preference in mind. One thing I would always advise is that if you're going to buy a car, please go with a mechanic of your choice, of your trusting. Have them check out the car, especially the mechanical condition, because you find some people are just blown away by the aesthetics, how the car looks on the outside, and that's it. But please go with a mechanic, let them check out the engine, let them advise you on the soundness, because the car is an engine. Once that is right, everything else can be dealt with later. But then again, just to draw a vote of confidence, I think with the new system where we have newer cars coming in, it's not as bad as before, where we had all manners of chakara, of flooding into the country. So I think there's a much better product in the market. It's just you, the customer, to be just that extra, exercise that extra piece of vigilance. And you should be able to have a good car.
Surely. Yeah, well, your final remarks and where people can find you, and the Association of Motor Dealers, what you guys actually have to offer, and probably your business as well, as for now, where people can actually find help in case they need it.
Oh, yeah. So the Associated Motor Dealers is the body that governs all car dealers in the country. It's called Associated Motor Dealers, of which I happen to be the publicity secretary. We are located at Uma Showground, behind the multipurpose hall. We have an office there that's open for 6 days a week. So in case you're trying to purchase a vehicle, a car dealer is giving you some trouble, or whatever trouble you run into, please feel free to contact the association. We are very willing and able to help you deal with whatever it is that might be to help you get value for your purchase. I personally, I run a company called the Harry Group. Harry Group, we are located in Naguru in a car bond called Kadam. I think Harry Group is an agent of B-Ford, the Japanese exporter. We have offices in Naguru. We have an office in Boulevard building. That's opposite the General Post Office, yes. We have an office in Kansanga. Yes. That is the Palm Village. It's a new mall over there. And yeah, so that's where we are at this point in time.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Marvin.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for viewing. If you do have any questions, if you need some guidance, you can reach me on my personal number. It's 782-406-506. That is 0782-406-506, and I'll be able to answer or assist you with any issues you might have in car purchase.
Wow, thank you. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is it for today. And thank you so much for joining us, those of you on our social media, on YouTube, and those of you watching live on DSTV and GoTV. My name is Anthony. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Anthony Sebale, and follow Smart24 TV for more business content. See you next time. Bye for now.